Hare Krishna. We'll start with the Mangala Charan. Om Jnana Tinandasya, Jnana Jana Shanakaya, Chakshununitam Yena Tasmi Sri Guru Nama, Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Karamayam Tadati Swapadantikam, Vandeyam Sri Guru Sri Udapatakalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha, Sri Rupam Savjatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Stam Sajivam, Sadvaitam Savdutam Paljana Setam Krishna Chaitanya Deva, Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamsha, हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपति गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी कृपानुपते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Hare Krishna. So today we'll continue with mantra number 16 from Īśāvāsyam. So in our previous session, it was mantra number 15. It was about praying for the mercy of the Supreme Lord to remove the Brahmajyoti effulgence which is covering his face. So this mantra is also related to that prayer. Mantra number 16. Pushane karshe yama surya prajapatya yuha rashmin samuhatejo yatte rupam kalyana tamam tatte pashyami yo asau shav purusha so aham asmi. O my Lord, O primal philosopher, O regulating destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, as am I. Similar to the previous mantra, in this mantra also, as we know, the Īśāvāsyam prayers, the entire Īśāvāsyam mantras, they are prayers uttered by Swayambhuva Manu to Lord Yajna, meaning his grandson, when the Supreme Lord incarnated as Lord Yajna. So he was born as the son of Akuti. He was also born as the son of Devuti in his incarnation as Lord Kapila, and then that was also as the grandson of Swayambhuva Manu. Then he was also born as Lord Yajna, as the grandson of Swayambhuva Manu. And when Swayambhuva Manu was being attacked by the demons, so these Īśāvāsyam prayers were chanted by Swayambhuva Manu to Lord Yajna. So in mantras number 15 and 16, the prayers are meant to seek for the mercy of the Supreme Lord to remove the Brahmajyoti effulgence which is covering his transcendental body. So it is like seeking for the mercy of the Supreme Lord to transcend from the basic impersonal Brahmajyoti realization towards the absolute, towards the complete Bhagavan realization. So we have already seen quite a lot of aspects related to the different levels of realization of the absolute truth. So this mantra is quite related to that. But here there are several other keywords which also describe the Supreme Lord, like the primal philosopher, maintainer of the universe, the regulating principle, destination of pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind. So compared to the previous mantra, mantra number 15, in this mantra, there are several other descriptions which are used in praise of the Supreme Lord, like Pusha Nekarsya Yama Surya Prajapatya. So these descriptions also clearly indicate about the superiority of the Supreme Lord compared to all the other demigods and the progenitors, Prajapati, Surya. So the purport to this mantra is also explores about how the Supreme Lord acts as the maintainer of the universe and also the well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind. The sun and its rays are one and the same qualitatively. So we have already seen regarding this analogy about how the three levels of realization of the absolute truth are explained using the analogy of the sun. In the previous session, we saw that analogy. We have also seen regarding that analogy in quite a number of our sessions in many of the discussions related to this realization of the different levels of realization of the absolute truth. So as we know in Gita, in Bhagavad Gita as it is, for the purport for verse 2.2, the second verse of chapter 2, in that in the purport for that verse, since that verse is the first verse which is spoken by Krishna himself, so it starts with Sri Bhagavan Vacha. So in the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada explains the meaning of Bhagavan according to two aspects. So in the first half of the purport, Prabhupada explains regarding the meaning of Bhagavan from the context of the topmost level of realization of the absolute truth. Then in the second half of the purport, Prabhupada explains the meaning of Bhagavan according to the six opulences as described by Parashara Muni. So when it comes to this three levels of realization, so the sun's analogy had been used. So we saw it in the previous session. So the impersonal Brahma Jyoti is regarded as similar to the sun rays of the sun, and the Paramatma realization, which is considered as a more advanced level, but still it is also a partial level, though it is more advanced compared to the Brahma Jyoti realization level. Paramatma realization is still considered a partial level of realization, followed by the for Paramatma level of realization, it is regarded as the disk which surrounds the surface of the sun, and the sun god Suryadev, who resides in the sun, that is regarded as the topmost level or the complete Bhagavan realization. So as mentioned here, the sun and its rays are the same qualitatively. So in order to, even if you want to worship the sun, the complete level of realization is to worship the sun god. So that is considered the topmost level. But if we are going to merely worship the sun rays, so that is also considered similar to the sun god, but qualitatively. The sun rays are regarded as qualitatively similar to the sun itself, but still they are not the same. Similarly, the Lord and the living entities are one and the same in quality. So the Supreme Lord is regarded as Supreme Brahman. In Gita chapter 10, verse number 12, Arjuna praises Lord Krishna by saying Param Brahma Param Dhamma. Param Brahma means the Supreme Brahman. So we are also, we the living entities are also part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman. So we are also similar to the Supreme Brahman qualitatively, not quantitatively. So we are the Jiva Brahman. We have qualitative similarity, but not quantitative similarity. We are like the gold particles in a gold mine. The Supreme Lord is regarded as the gold mine, and we, the living entities, are like the tiny particles. The sun's rays constitute part of the sun. Within the sun itself resides the sun god, and similarly within the supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana, from which the Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating, the Lord enjoys his eternal pastimes, as verified in the Brahma Samhita 5.29. So just like the analogy of the sun, when we are able to realize the presence of the sun god within the sun planet, so that is regarded as the topmost realization. Similarly, we should also be able to realize the Supreme Lord who resides in Goloka Vrindavana, and it is from his transcendental body that this Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating from. So the Brahmajyoti effulgence is merely a partial feature of the complete Bhagavan himself. So merely by realizing the impersonal feature, that is just the first step towards realization of the absolute truth. So we should ideally attain the complete level of Bhagavan realization, because that is the topmost level of realizing the absolute truth. And the description about the Supreme Lord residing in Goloka Vrindavana has been mentioned in Brahma Samhita 5.29. Chintamani prakara satmasu kalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhira vipalayantam Lakshmi sahasrasam brahma sevyamanam Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, fulfilling all desires in abodes filled with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of wish-fulfilling trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or goddesses of fortune. So the Supreme Lord resides in Goloka Vrindavana. We have also seen from the Goloka chart where the Supreme Lord is present as Swayam Bhagavan in Goloka Vrindavana, and it is from that Swayam Rupa that all the other expansions emerge. So those expansions are the ones which that are engaged in different pastimes in the different abodes like Mathura and Dwaraka, even in Ayodhya Dham. So Lord Rama is also an expansion of the Swayam Rupa of Krishna. And similarly, when it comes to the material world also, those expansions which originate from the Swayam Rupa, they also further expand from Adi Chaturvyuha to Dvitiya Chaturvyuha, and then they further expand to the Vishnu Tattvas in the material world. So from all the perspectives, we can clearly see that the Swayam Rupa of Krishna is that Swayam Bhagavan who resides in Goloka Vrindavana, and even the Brahmajyoti effulgence actually emanates from his transcendental body. So we should be able to understand the source of the Brahmajyoti effulgence and not merely regard the Brahmajyoti effulgence as the ultimate destination. The Brahmajyoti is described in the Brahma Samhita as the rays emanating from that supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavana. Until one surpasses the glare of the Brahmajyoti, one cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. Now, the Brahmajyoti effulgence is so bright that it is able to illuminate the entire spiritual sky. As we know, the spiritual world is 3/4 of the total creation. So the material world that we are living in now, we as conditioned souls, we are living in this material world, part of the Matatva. So this itself is only 1/4 of the total creation, but the spiritual world is 3/4. So to illuminate the entire spiritual sky, the Brahmajyoti effulgence is able to illuminate the entire spiritual sky, and therefore that type of effulgence covers the true identity of the Supreme Lord, and therefore we from the material world, especially in the case of the impersonalists, they are not able to see the face of the Supreme Lord, and they tend to conclude that the Supreme Lord is actually some form of light, because they are actually blinded by the dazzling Brahmajyoti. Limited by their poor fund of knowledge, such impersonalist thinkers cannot understand the all-blissful transcendental form of Lord Krishna. Therefore, Sri Īśāvāsyam petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahmajyoti so that the pure devotee can see his all-blissful transcendental form. As mentioned earlier, even in the previous mantra, mantra number 15, it is also a prayer to the Supreme Lord to remove the Brahmajyoti effulgence, because the Brahmajyoti effulgence itself is like a byproduct of the Supreme Lord's energy. So if we want to see beyond the Brahmajyoti effulgence, for that we need the mercy of the Supreme Lord to grant us the intelligence to realize the complete Bhagavan realization. Otherwise, we will also be limited to thinking that the Supreme Lord is just an impersonal form. By realizing the impersonal Brahmajyoti, one experiences the auspicious aspect of the Supreme. Now, even for those the impersonalists who have the realization of the impersonal Brahmajyoti, still it is also considered an auspicious aspect. But that is only the first step. The tragedy in the impersonalist school of thought is that they think that the first step itself is the ultimate destination. But it is not true. There is further, there is the Paramatma realization, which is the all-pervading feature of the Supreme. Why is it called all-pervading? Because it is through the Paramatma feature that the Supreme Lord pervades the entire creation. For example, in the Purushavataras, we know that in the third Purushavatara, that is Shirodakashayi Vishnu, he expands himself. That third expansion enters into all the living entities as Paramatma. So he is present as the localized Paramatma in the hearts of all living entities, and that itself is another superior aspect of the Supreme Lord, because he is able to be present within the living entities and also externally, because the Paramatma is residing in our hearts internally. At the same time, he also pervades the entire creation which exists externally. Even this material nature, which is actually dead matter, it is also part of his inferior energy, the Mad Brahma. So even the Paramatma realization is an even more auspicious enlightenment. So the impersonal Brahmajyoti realization is auspicious, but it is not the ultimate end goal. So further, there is the Paramatma realization, which is even more auspicious, but by meeting the personality of Godhead himself face to face, the supreme personality of Godhead, devotee experiences the most auspicious feature. So here it has been specifically mentioned that the devotee experiences the most auspicious feature because this privilege is only available to the devotees. Only devotees can attain that complete Bhagavan realization to understand the personality of Godhead. The word Pushan, maintainer, is especially significant for although the Lord maintains all beings, he specifically maintains his devotees. In Gita 9.19, Krishna says, Tapami aham varsham Nigrinami Utsujamicha Amritam Saiva Mrityuscha Sat Asat Chaham Arjuna. O Arjuna, I give heed and I withhold and send for the rain. I am immortality and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. So this is an example of a description about how Krishna maintains the entire universe. So he provides for all the living entities equally, but he also takes care of the devotees specifically, as Krishna himself mentions in the same chapter in 9.29. Krishna says, Samoam sarvabhuteshu name dvesho asti na priya ye vadanti tu mam bhaktya maiteteshu chapyam. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So, even in this verse, Krishna is specifically mentioning that though he is equal to all, he is never partial to anyone, but he specifically takes care of the devotees. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. The devotees who render devotional service to him, they are taken care specifically by him. So does this mean that Krishna is partial? Is it wrong for him to take extra care of the devotees? What do you all think? Hare Krishna. Any opinion? Is Krishna being partial or discriminating?
No, Prabhu. Just like the father and to the devotees, a bit more liberal.
Okay.
Just like you can compare the love of the father or the son compared to the people, Prabhu. So yeah. No, I mean, he's quite okay. He's equal to everybody.
Yes. So one example is like in a family, the father does not discriminate against any child. It's just that in any family also, the parents know that which child is more obedient. So that's naturally the even the parents are kind of attracted towards that child, but that doesn't mean that they are going to completely disregard all the other kids. And another analogy is that in a classroom, a teacher will be like teaching to 40 students, let's say. So the teacher will always give the same input to all 40 students. So the teacher will never discriminate against any student. The teacher gives the same input to all 40 students, but out of those 40, only 4 will be like, they'll be having more interest in the subject, maybe, and they'll always be approaching the teacher, asking more questions, and sometimes they'll also help the teacher with carrying the teacher's things or something. So that type of interaction is natural, and we cannot blame the teacher that the teacher is only practicing like favoritism towards those 4 children, because those 4 out of 40, they are the ones who actually approach the teacher for more. So naturally, they'll be getting more attention, because the those 4 students themselves, they are the ones who approach the teacher with that intention to get more knowledge. So when they act with more, when they themselves are more interested in that subject, so naturally the teacher will also give extra attention towards them. And the teacher cannot really go around and ask all the students, though the teacher will always be giving the same input during the class, but only those students who have additional interest, they'll always be approaching the teacher, and there's nothing wrong. We cannot blame the teacher for being like, we cannot accuse the teacher that the teacher is discriminating. So similarly, the devotees who are always approaching Krishna through their devotional service, for sure they'll get additional attention, that is natural. But Krishna never discriminates, because even when he provides rain and all the other resources, even the atheists who don't believe in Krishna, even they also get all the benefits. So there's no discrimination. Apart from that, in 5.29, also Krishna says, Bhoktaram ekam tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surdam sarvabhutanam nyatma mam shanti mrichati. Here, the part of the verse, the third part, surdam sarvabhutanam. Krishna is the supreme well-wisher of all living entities. These 3 aspects are to be understood by anyone who wants to attain peace. So we must understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. Krishna is the supreme controller of all planets and the demigods, and he is also the supreme well-wisher. So anyone who understands these 3 aspects, they will attain peace. So this is also quite similar to what was mentioned in mantra 16 of Īśāvāsyam regarding how Krishna is the well-wisher to all the progenitors and also the living entities. In his Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami states the complete conception of the absolute truth is realized in the personality of Godhead. So we know that the topmost level of realization of the absolute truth is the Bhagavan realization. So the word Bhagavan itself, there are 3 syllables, Bhagavan. So the first syllable, Ba, refers to, now this is from the purport given by Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is explaining the meanings of the syllable. So the first syllable, Ba, has 2 meanings. The first one is one who fully maintains. The second is guardian. So Ba is the one who fully maintains and or guardian. The second syllable, Ga, means guide, leader, or creator. The third syllable, Van, indicates that every being lives in him, and he also lives in every being. In other words, the transcendental sound, Bhagavan, represents infinite knowledge, potency, energy, opulence, strength, and influence, all without a tinge of material inability. So this is from the purport written by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is explaining the meaning of the word Bhagavan according to the 3 syllables, and also the overall meaning of it based on the 6 opulences. Now, the major difference between the Bhaktivedanta purports and the other commentaries written by other authors is that everything that is written by Prabhupada is there's always authentic reference in the other Shastras. So even when we look at the meaning of the word Bhagavan, as Prabhupada explains in his purport, so he is explaining the meaning syllable by syllable. So it is actually from Vishnu Purana. So there are 3 verses from Vishnu Purana, from 6.573 to 6.575. So the meaning of Bhagavan, which is given by Prabhupada in his purports, they are also from the other authentic scriptures. So these were not manufactured by Prabhupada. So this is the major difference between the Bhaktivedanta purports and other commentaries written by other authors. So in 6573, verse 6573 from Vishnu Purana, Sambartaiti Tata Bharta Bakaro Artha Dvayanvitaha Neta Gamaita Shrasta Gakarartas Tata Mune. So the first line, Sambarta Tata Bharta Ba Akaro Artha Dvayanvitaha, meaning that the first syllable Ba, so it is stated Ba Akaro means the syllable Ba has two meanings. Artha Dvayanvitaha, two meanings. One is Sambarta, another is Bharta. The meaning of Sambarta is maintainer of all or the protector of all, Bharta. So this Sanskrit word Bharta, it also refers to husband or Purusha. The same word Bharta refers to husband and Bharya refers to wife. So these words are also there in other languages like Telugu and Malayalam, in most of the Indian languages. So the words in those languages, they also come from this Sanskrit word. Sambarta, Bharta, they are the two meanings of the first syllable, Ba. Then the second syllable, Ga, Neta Gamaita Shrasta Ga Karatas Tatamune. So the syllable Ga means the leader, Neta, Gamaita, destroyer, or creator, Shrasta. So exactly, Prabhupada has given the exact meaning from Vishnu Purana in his purports. Then in the following verse in Vishnu Purana, it talks about the six opulences. Aishvaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashasya, Shriya, Jnana Vairagyayos Chaiva, Shat Iti Bhagam Gana. So Shat Bhagam, meaning the six opulences. The opulence of wealth, strength, beauty, fame, knowledge, renunciation. So the six opulences, they are also mentioned in Vishnu Purana 6.5.74. Then the following verse 6.5.75, it talks about the meaning of one. Vasanti tatra bhutani bhutatmani akilatmani sacha bhutesh ashesheshu vakarartas tato avya. Vakararta, meaning it refers to the meaning of one. The syllable va indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everything as the Super Soul, and everything is present in him. Again, the explanation given in Vishnu Purana matches exactly with what Prabhupada has written in his purports. Apart from that, even in Bhagavatam 3.24.3, this is the verse spoken by Kardama Muni to the Supreme Lord. So even in this verse, Kardama Muni praises the Supreme Lord using the six opulences. He is also mentioning the six opulences of Bhagavan: fame, knowledge, renunciation, wealth, strength, beauty. Then in Gita 9.18, Krishna says, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Saranam Sur Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidhanam Bijam Avyayam. I am the goal sustainer, master, witness, abode, refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seat. So these are the additional descriptions which we also find in Mantra 16 specifically. Even Mantra 15, it is also a prayer to the Supreme Lord to remove the Brahmadodi effulgence which is covering his face. Then in Mantra 16, there are these additional descriptions in praise of the Supreme Lord. So in the purports, Prabhupada explains how the Supreme Lord acts as the maintainer, the guardian, and the leader. So that too using authentic references from other Shastras like Vishnu Purana. The Lord fully maintains his unalloyed devotees and he guides them progressively on the path toward devotional perfection. As the leader of his devotees, he ultimately awards the desired results of devotional service by giving himself to them. The devotees of the Lord see the Lord eye to eye by his causeless mercy. So devotees are able to attain the complete Bhagavan realization due to the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in the impersonal realization. He enjoys his own self by manifesting his own internal potency. The external potency is not exactly manifested by him, for he expands himself as the Purushas. It is in these forms that he maintains the features of the material manifestation. By such expansions, he creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmic manifestation. Now, in Gita 4.9, Krishna says, Janma karma se me divyam, evam yoveti tatvata, chatvadeyam punarjanma, neti mameti so Arjuna. So Krishna says that his appearance and activities are transcendental. Even when he appears in this material world, his appearance and activities are transcendental. And in 9.11, Krishna says, Avajanati mamura, manushim tanu ashritam, parambhava manjalanto, mamabhuta maheshwaram. So in that verse, Krishna says that those who regard him as a mere mortal human being, they are mudas, fools, because even when he appears in the material world, he appears in his full transcendental potency. He functions through his internal potency. However, even that internal potency emanates from him. It's not like he gets energy from the internal potency. So his true transcendental nature is such that everything is based on his internal potency, and there's no need for he does not need the inferior material energy for anything. So that is only for our maintenance, especially us, the conditioned souls. So since we are part of this material world, Krishna creates this material world through the Purusha Avatara expansions, and that is only to maintain us, the conditioned souls. The living entities are also differentiated expansions of the Lord's self. Because of the presence of his parts and parcels, the living entities, the entire phenomenal world is stirred into action and reaction. So if we don't exist in this material world, the entire material nature is dead matter. It appears to be lively because of our presence. Even our material body, it appears to be animate because of the presence of the spirit soul. The moment the spirit soul leaves this material body, it is dead matter. The ultimate controller is the Lord himself in his plenary feature as Paramatma, the super soul, who is one of the Purushas. So the third Purusha incarnation, Shirodakasai Vishnu, expands himself as the Paramatma, the localized Paramatma in the hearts of all living entities. So with the presence of the Paramatma, who accompanies all the other spirit souls, then the entire material world appears to be animate. Otherwise, without the presence of the Jivatma and Paramatma, this entire material nature is just dead matter. So this is the Mahatattva, the dark spot. So even in the illustrations, it has been this dark kind of coloring has been used intentionally to indicate that this Mahatattva is actually the dark spot, which is devoid of the Brahmajyoti effulgence. So the entire spiritual sky is illuminated by the Brahmajyoti effulgence, but we who are in this Mahatattva, we are residing in one of the innumerable material universes, part of the Mahatattva. So we are all in darkness. So at least for those who are able to see the Brahmajyoti, for those who are able to realize the Brahmajyoti effulgence, so at least that is considered as an auspicious aspect. But the biggest tragedy is to regard that first step itself as the end goal. So Krishna, who is there in Goloka Vrindavana, in the topmost region of the spiritual world, he expands himself into so many expansions in the spiritual world itself. Even when he expands himself from the Goloka region to the Vaikuntha region, there are many further expansions into the Narayana forms. Then they further expand into the Dvitiya Chaturvyuha, which become the source of the Purusha Avataras. So the Purusha Avataras are solely meant for the creation, annihilation, and maintenance of the material universes, which are meant for us. Krishna does not stand to get any benefits from this. It is solely for the benefit of us, the fallen conditioned souls. It was all created because we wanted to be enjoyers and controllers. So Krishna created the entire material creation for us to enjoy. However, it has been clearly explained by Krishna himself in the Gita why it is actually foolish to think that we can enjoy in the material world. So the Purusha Avataras are solely meant for the administration of the material world. Otherwise, Swayam Bhagavan in his Swayam Rupa, he always functions through his internal potency. The inferior potency, which is the material energy, is solely for this maintenance of material universes. So in 15.7, Krishna talks about how the living entities are his eternal fragmental parts. So there is a difference between Atma and Paramatma. Atma, also known as Jivatma. Paramatma is the controller and Atma is the controlled. However, we as conditioned souls, we are stuck here because contrary to the truth that we are actually the controlled ones, we were never meant to be controllers. Still, we had the desire to be controllers, and that's why we are stuck in this Dukkalayam. But we were never meant to be controllers. We are supposed to be the control. We are supposed to be controlled by the Paramatma. Because the Paramatma fully cooperates with the Atma, he is known as the constant companion of the living being. Even when we talk about the three types of gurus, the Chaita Guru is actually the Paramatma living in the heart of all living entities. We also have the Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru. But if we compare all these three types of gurus, we can clearly see that it is our Chaita Guru who is always accompanying us. He never leaves us even for a moment. So since he resides in our heart, he knows everything about us. So compared to even the Siksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus, we might only get to see them even with the online facilities. We can only meet them just for a few times in a year. But the Chaita Guru always accompanies us and he observes everything and he rewards us accordingly. So that is why for the Paramatma, he identifies everyone as spirit souls. So that should be the proper understanding even for us to escape from these material miseries. So as long as we tend to see everyone as in different material bodies, as long as we tend to be obsessed with the material destinations, so that will further lead to more material entanglement. So the first step itself is to realize that we ourselves are not this material body, we are spirit souls, and we should also be able to see other living entities as spirit souls, and also to see the Paramatma who resides in the hearts of those living entities. So that would be the most enlightened stage, as mentioned by Krishna in 5.18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samasdarshinaha. The humble sage is by virtue of true knowledge. See with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Also in 6.30, Krishna says, Yomam Pashyati Sarvatra, Sarvaṁ Samai Pashyati, Tasyavanam Pranashyami, Sachamena Pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So these verses were also spoken by Krishna in the Gita, and they indicate the Paramatma feature. Also in 13.28, in chapter 13 itself, the subject matter of chapter 13 particularly deals with the various distinctions between the Jivatma and Paramatma. So the Jivatma is the one who is the knower of the field of his own field. The Jivatma within my body only knows about this field, about my body, but the Paramatma within my heart knows about all the other fields, the bodies of all the other living entities. So in chapter 13 also, Krishna says, Samam Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishtantam Parameswaram Vinashatsu Avinashyantam Ya Pashyati Sapashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. So this would be the enlightened level of vision, to see everyone as spirit souls, and also to be able to see the super soul who accompanies those spirit souls. So all these verses also emphasize regarding the Paramatma level. Since the Lord is the origin of both Paramatma and Brahman, meaning Bhagavan is the origin of Paramatma and Brahman, he is the origin of all living entities and all else that exists. Those who have realized only the Brahman or Paramatma features of the Lord cannot appreciate the activities of the perfect devotees. Devotees are the ones who have realized the topmost Bhagavan realization. So once devotees who have attained that level of Bhagavan realization, of course they also know about the Paramatma and Brahman realization, or the impersonal Brahmajyoti, but it doesn't work the other way around. Those who merely have Brahman realization, they won't be having the complete Bhagavan realization. Only the devotees who have the complete Bhagavan realization, they also understand the partial features like Brahman and Paramatma. So the three levels can be summarized as something like this. So Bhagavan is the superset. So Brahman is the smallest subset. Paramatma slightly larger than impersonal Brahman realization, but still it is a subset of Bhagavan realization. Bhagavan realization is the superset. So the devotees are the ones who are able to attain complete Bhagavan realization with the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and therefore they will also be able to understand the other levels. But those who are merely stuck in this Brahman realization, they won't be able to advance further unless, even with the initial understanding of Brahman realization, through the mercy of the Supreme Lord, if the impersonalists also engage in devotional service with the mercy of the Supreme Lord, they can also further expand and attain the Bhagavan realization. Apart from that, there's also this summary about the progression towards the three levels. in the ending part of chapter 18, starting from 18.50, Krishna starts to explain about the Brahma Bhuta stage, or the stage attained by those who have attained the Brahman realization. In 18.50, Krishna says, Siddhim prapto yada brahma tadapnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kaunteya nishtanyanasya para. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. 18.54, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochiti Nakamshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mat Bhaktim Labate Param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So the Brahman realization further develops into Paramatma realization. In 18.61, Krishna talks about the Paramatma feature, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, Hiddeshe Junachishtati, Ramayan Sarva Bhutani, Yantra Udani Maya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So this is referring to the Paramatma feature, the localized Paramatma in the hearts of all living entities. Then in 18.63, Itite Jnanamakyatam Guyat Goyatanam Maya Purnashaitat Asheshena Yatechasi Takuru. Thus, I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So in this verse, Krishna is saying that he has given the knowledge that is more confidential. So he is referring to the Paramatma level of realization mentioned in 18.61 compared to the Brahman realization in 18.50 and the following verses. So from that Brahman realization, which is confidential knowledge, Krishna talks about Paramatma realization, which is more confidential. 18.64, Sarva Goyatamam Bhuya Shrunu me Param Vacha Istoshme Ritam iti Tato Vakshami Te Hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So from confidential to more confidential to most confidential. What is the most confidential knowledge? 18.65. Manmana Bhakto Madhyaji Mavanaskuru Mame Vaisesi Satyam Te Pratijane Prayosi Me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So the Bhagavan realization, as devotees, as bhaktas, we get the Bhagavan realization, which is the most confidential knowledge. So even towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, there's this portion, which is like a series, like a progression, which describes about the confidential, more confidential, and most confidential knowledge, corresponding to the three levels of realization of the absolute truth. 18.66, Sarva Dharman Parijajya, Mamekam Sharanam Raja, Aham Tvam Sarvapapevyo Mokshishami Masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all reactions, from all sinful reactions, do not fear. So one who surrenders to the Supreme Lord becomes a devotee and he attains devotional service. Even in the earlier chapters, Krishna talks about this surrender towards him. Like in 7.14, Krishna says, Daivi Hesha Gunamai, Mamaya Duratya, Mameve Prapadyante, Maya Metam Tanantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Being trapped in this material world, we are always subject to the influence of Maya. We are being puppets in the hands of Maya. So Krishna himself, he acknowledges that the force of Maya is so powerful, not for him, for us as the conditioned souls, but he prescribes that we surrender to him because it is from his inferior energy that Maya itself emerges. So he is the source of everything. So when we surrender to the Supreme Lord, so we can easily cross over this ocean of material misery, and we can also liberate ourselves from the clutches of Maya. Okay, now, whether it is from 7.14 or in many other verses, Krishna is instructing Arjuna and also us as Swayam Bhagavan. That's why in all these verses, we can clearly see words like Mam, Mat, meaning that when Krishna says Mam and Mat, he is referring to me and my. Like in this example, 8.5, Antakale cha Mameva, Smaran Muktva Kalaivaram, Ya Prayati Samad Bhavam, Yati Nashti Artha Samshaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt. So, clearly in the verse spoken by Krishna himself, he is clearly mentioning that we must remember him, not his unmanifested feature, not his impersonal Brahmajyoti. He is talking about himself. We should remember him, the supreme personality of Godhead. We must remember the personal feature. In the form of Krishna, we must remember him. So, even while speaking all these verses, Krishna is clearly emphasizing on the superiority of the topmost level of Bhagavan realization. Again in 8.7, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Mai Arpita Manobuddhir Mam Evaishachi Asamshaya. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me. You will attain me without doubt. So again, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna is clearly referring to the topmost level. 9.34 Manmana Bhava Mat Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mam Evaishasi Vayam Atmana Mat Parayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. The instructions are so straightforward and clear. Krishna is not instructing us to worship his impersonal Brahmajyoti. He is talking about his personal form. 10.8 Aham Sarvasya Prabho Matta Sarvaṁ Pravartate Iti Matva Bhajante Mam Buddhabhava Samanita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. 11.55 Mat Karma Krin Mat Parama Mat Bhakta Sangha Varjita Nirvaira Sarva Bhuteshu Yasamameti Pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. Again, in all these verses, the instruction is very clear. The one who makes me the supreme goal. So the supreme goal is clearly the Bhagavan realization. To realize that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, not to make the Brahmajyoti as the supreme goal. We must make the supreme personality of Godhead. We must make Krishna as the supreme goal, the topmost level of realization of the absolute truth. Also in 12.1, Arjuna asks regarding which is considered to be more perfect, whether is it to be engaged in your devotional service or to worship the impersonal Brahman, to which the answer is so straightforward. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Aisha Mano Yemam Nitya Yukta Apasate Shraddhaya Paragopetas Teme Yuktatamo Mataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. My Avesha Mano Ye Mam. Again, Mam referring to Krishna himself. He is referring to himself. He is not saying that people should worship the Brahmajyoti. 12.20, the last verse of chapter 12. Krishna concludes the chapter of Bhakti Yoga saying that Yetu Dharma Amrutam Idam Yatoktam Pariupaste, Shraddhadana Matparama, Bhaktaste Tivame Priyaha. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Just like in the last verse of chapter 11.55, Krishna said that we must make him the supreme goal. Again, he's reiterating and saying that we must make him as the supreme goal, not his Brahmajyoti. Also, in 1.3.28, again, the explanation is very clear. Though chapter 3 of the first canto talks about all the various incarnations, but it has been clearly reinforced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is the one who also descended to the material world compared to all other incarnations. But though Krishna talks about the importance of surrendering, so he also acknowledges that the Duskritis, they do not surrender to him. There are these categories of Duskritis who do not surrender. But even among those who surrender, the four kinds of pious men who surrender and render devotional service to Krishna, the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So these four types of people surrender to Krishna. So even for those who surrender, maybe in the beginning stages, they might have this impersonal conception. So that's why even that impersonal Brahmajyoti realization is still regarded as something that is auspicious, but it would be very tragic if that is misunderstood to be the ultimate goal. Because we saw in so many verses, Krishna is talking about how important it is for us to regard him as the supreme goal. So the supreme goal should be the topmost Bhagavan realization level. Also, as devotees, we must also understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement. So the sign of a pure devotee is the one who clearly understands this. Of the different levels of people who surrender to Krishna, some are those in distress, some are those who are in seeking material wealth. So those who are in distress, if they merely surrender to Krishna to get relief from the distress, so the moment they get relief, they might forget Krishna. Even for those who are seeking material wealth, the moment they get whatever they desire, they might forget Krishna. Then even the inquisitive person actually is like slightly better because he is actually searching for knowledge, and potentially he might be a jnani, who is the most preferred category, simply because in 7.17 Krishna says, Tesham jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo jnanino tyartam aham sacham mama priya. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Again, even in this verse, Krishna is clearly emphasizing that it is him. So he is saying that the devotee, especially the jnani, is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So the highest and most perfect goal is clearly the Bhagavan level. And though Krishna specifically prefers the jnani, still even for the other categories of people who surrender, potentially they might also reach this level of a jnani, because if we are going to just worship Krishna for seeking material benefits or just to get relief from distress, we can still never liberate ourselves from this material entanglement. only the jnani who realizes that the ultimate goal is to regain Krishna's association in the spiritual world, only that person, that jnani, will be able to fully liberate himself. So that's why the jnani is specifically more preferred compared to the other categories. But at least even in the other categories of people, since they have surrendered to Krishna, so there are chances for them to to attain the level of a jnani. Okay, so we have seen regarding how the Bhagavan level is the topmost level. So now we look at another aspect which also establishes the supremacy of the Bhagavan level from another perspective, from the perspective of demigods. In Canto 2, Chapter 3, there are descriptions about so many demigods and also their jurisdiction. So we worship, by worshipping demigods, we can get material benefits. But as long as we are too obsessed with material benefits, we are only going to further entangle ourselves materially. It will not lead to liberation. So even regarding this demigod worship, there are descriptions from these verses from 2:3:2 to 2:3:8 specifically. Various demigods are mentioned, and so we can see that it has been mentioned regarding what we can attain, what type of benefit we can attain by worshipping a particular demigod. So one who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma or Brihaspati, the learned priest. So similarly, in all these verses, there are very detailed descriptions about all the demigods and what type of benefits they can reward to the demigod worshippers. One desiring to be very powerful should worship fire. One who aspires only after money should worship the Vasus. One should worship the Rudra incarnations of Lord Shiva if he wants to be a great hero. So again, these are all the material benefits. One who wants a large stock of grains should worship Aditi. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigods known as Ashwini Kumaras. So there are many other demigods are also mentioned in these verses, and regarding the benefits they offer. One who desires to be beautiful should worship the beautiful residents of the Gandharva planet. One who desires tangible fame should worship the personality of Godhead. One should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement of knowledge and for protection of heredity and advancement of a dynasty. One should worship the various demigods. So in all these verses, the various demigods have been mentioned, and also the type of material benefits which they offer, those are also mentioned. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So only by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can liberate ourselves from this obsession for material enjoyment, because that is the cause of all our miseries. So at least with this human form of life, we should at least realize and endeavor towards liberating ourselves. 2:3:10 Akama sarva kamo va moksha kamo udaladi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. So someone who is truly intelligent would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can give us liberation from the present mess where we are stuck in. At least since we have got this precious human form of life, at least by endeavoring towards liberating ourselves, we can also, even if our journey is not complete, we can still get a chance to complete our practice. But at least we should endeavor with this precious form of life. So even from those verses in the Bhagavatam, we can clearly see that all the various demigods, they are, each demigod has a very specific jurisdiction. Each demigod is only able to grant very specific material benefits. So the demigod worshippers who always seek material benefits, they pick and choose the different demigods, and once they get the material benefit, they move on to another demigod. But what they fail to understand is that all these material benefits are temporary and they only lead to further entanglement. But since we have got this precious human form of life, we must realize that the only solution to all our problems is to surrender towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who himself is the one who empowers those demigods. So related to this, Krishna also explains in 7.20 and the following few verses, those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So even for the demigod worshippers, whenever they have these material desires to worship some, so they tend to worship some demigod. So Krishna, being the Paramatma, he knows about that desire. So he also facilitates that person to engage in demigod worship. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires, but in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. So that's how the devotees who worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who have attained that complete Bhagavan realization, they have the advantage of completely liberating themselves from all material miseries. Rather than being foolishly going after material benefits, we should utilize this precious human form of life to liberate ourselves from all the material miseries. So it is not necessary to have very specific material designations. All living entities can attain liberation, provided that they surrender to the Supreme Lord. Krishna says in 9.32, Mami Pata Vipashritya, Ye Pisho Papayonaya, Sriyo Vaishya Tata Sutras, Te Piyanti Param Gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. So it is not that liberation is reserved for only certain varnas. So this potential for liberation is not restricted to any material designation. So as long as one fully takes shelter under the Supreme Lord, that person can be liberated. The Lord always helps the pure devotees by imparting necessary knowledge within their hearts. He dissipates all the darkness of ignorance. As stated in Katha Upanishad 1-23, the Lord can be known only by those whom he favors and not by anyone else. Īśāvāsyam thus points to the favor of the Lord, which is beyond the purview of the Brahmajyoti. So only the devotees can become intelligent enough to understand that we can only liberate ourselves from the material miseries by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So for that, only the devotees are able to attain that complete, topmost Bhagavan realization. But even that would be possible when the devotees are specially favored by the Supreme Lord. To gain the mercy of the Supreme Lord, devotees have to engage in devotional service. Only then devotees will be provided with the proper knowledge and intelligence to understand the topmost level of Bhagavan realization. So these have also been mentioned by Krishna about how he himself also helps the devotees to understand him further. 9.22, Ananjas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paripaste Tesham Nityabhiktanam Yoga Shemam Mahamyam. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. 10.10 Tesham Sarata Yuktanam Bhadatam Priti Purvakam Tadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenama Umpyantiti. To those who are constantly devoted to showing me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Tesham Eunukam Partam Aham Ajnanam Tama Nashami Atbhavasta Jnana Deepena Bhasuta. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So the activities of devotees who are engaged in devotional service and even their desire to attain the Supreme Lord, all these are observed by the Supreme Lord himself as Paramatma in the hearts of the devotees, and therefore he rewards them by enabling them to get more knowledge to attain the Bhagavan level of realization. Also in Katha Upanishad, this is the part where when the Brahmana boy Nachiketas, he tries to get knowledge from Yamaraj, but initially Yamaraj is he does not simply want to reveal all the knowledge to Nachiketa. So he kind of tests the boy by offering him a lot of material benefits. But the boy intelligently refuses all those material offerings. And he says that I only want the spiritual knowledge which can liberate me. I don't want to be further materially entangled. So that's when Yamaraj becomes very pleased to know that the boy really has a good realization. He knows the difference between what is good and what is pleasant. All the material benefits that we seek in this material world, they all are the pleasant stuff, but they are not necessarily the good stuff. So this difference between the good and pleasant is also one of the subject matters of Katha Upanishad. So when Yamaraj sees that Nachiketa has intelligently refused all the material benefits that were promised, then Yamaraj reveals the knowledge of Katha Upanishad to Nachiketa. So even at that point, Yamaraj also says that this Atma is not to be obtained by many explanations, nor by the intellect, nor by much learning. He whom alone this Atma elects, by him he obtained. For him, this Atma reveals his own nature. So even in this part of Katha Upanishad, Yamaraj explains to Nachiketa that the knowledge about the Supreme Brahman cannot be merely obtained by explanations nor merely by intellect. You still need the special mercy of the Supreme Brahman to attain this knowledge. So this has also been mentioned in Katha Upanishad regarding how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the one who enables us even to understand him. So that special mercy will only be granted to the devotees who are always endeavoring more and more to be engaged in devotional service. So back to summarize regarding the topmost level of Bhagavan realization. So to simply explain in simple terms, we know that Bhagavad Gita, which is the song of Bhagavan, was actually the instruction of Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita is actually the instruction of Krishna, the instruction spoken by Krishna, and the Purana about Krishna is known as Bhagavata Purana, the Purana of Bhagavan. So even when we look at the title of these two scriptures, these also clearly indicate about why Krishna is regarded as Bhagavan, the topmost level of realization of the absolute truth. So there are many other Puranas, but none of the other Puranas are regarded as the Purana of Bhagavan. Only the Purana which talks about Krishna is regarded as the Purana of Bhagavan. So that's why it is very important, especially for devotees, to understand this topmost level of Bhagavan realization. So with the mercy of the Supreme Lord, as we constantly endeavor to improve our devotional service. We can gain the mercy of the Supreme Lord to go to Goloka, back to Godhead. So that's all for today. Any questions or comments? Okay, so we'll meet again.